So let's return to one of the early games out of the Musket and Pike series, this Accursed Civil War. We're not going to do an intro on this. I did the rules last, I think, on Saints in Armor. I reread the rules. Not really comfortable with them. Probably this first scenario I'm going to fuck around and screw up some things. This is the Edgehill scenario. I think I've played this one once. I know I've played the game once and very much liked the experience. My past wife and I got to this, and I remember her getting a kick out of it too, which, you know, this is a nice, relatively clear terrain. You do see some things, the plowed field and the stream, those are not real terrain. I believe these hedgerows, though, are. Let's see, hexside terrain, hedge hexsides. They cause a formation hit, which is the big deal for them. They also cost an extra movement point, and they have an effect on combat, and they block lines of sight for fire. So this stuff here is kind of the only real terrain in the game. A little bit over here. That makes it a very pleasing musket and pike type scenario. One of the problems I had with Saints in Armor was the one on the Scanian War, I don't remember the name of it, but some of them just had way too much terrain, and the formation hits and all that, it just becomes very, very difficult to operate. These armies, especially the double-size units, are really, really designed to be operating in plains. I found the ones that were more complex terrain, the system just wasn't as much fun to play. I think it held up fine, but it just wasn't as enjoyable to play. They were more difficult. This came to mind. I had thought I had played this and Under the Lily Banners. Apparently I haven't. And there's another one, I have some Victus from the series as well that I don't know if I'll hunt down because boxes are so much easier to find. And this and Under the Lily Banners got a lot of votes over on my request thing. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to do a full intro to it. I'm just going to jump into the playthrough and start hitting. I haven't looked to see about commands. Okay, so the Royalists are all on charge, and Parliament is on receive charge, which kind of focuses where the game's at. So the Royalists automatically are on the offensive, and we got receive charges back here. I remember really, really enjoying this system, and particularly these kind of scenarios that were relatively low. Yeah, there's a low counter density on it, and there's not a lot of complexity to the terrain, and they just flowed really, really nicely. So we shall see what happens. I did have some difficulty, I'm just going to go into this, with the counter mix. I don't know how these were sorted and set up ahead of time. I have some counters that are replacement counters. I don't see any that impact this scenario. So I'm not going to worry about them, but there are things like why there's these frontage arrows on some of these units. I think that just became common. I also noticed that some of the units have let's find it. Some of the units have the wing designation on them, that little L there. the R here, but then some of them don't. And I don't see replacement units that recover, that handle that. So it's not like all the units just got this additional piece of information on them, as far as I can tell. But again, I might be missing, like there might be some units in here, although I didn't really see any that are replacements that, you know, I didn't really deal with. I'm gonna try to arrange it so it's by battle, but I'm not sure that's plausible. I really don't know how these were set up. You know, I bought this used, and then added components, you know, from other games that I found for, you know, that were supposed to come as updates for this. So yeah, I'm kind of playing in the dark in terms of that, but I just want to get the scenarios played and get a few done while the heat is going here. It's supposed to be 100 degrees for most of this week, and well, you know, get me a break away from that stupid Napoleonic game I'm playing. So let's take a quick look at what we got. I had to run upstairs, grab myself a couple of 10-siders. I forgot this game uses 10-siders. I don't think I have any down here. I mean, I'm sure I do in something or another, but anyway. So I guess the interesting thing is, this is the parliamentary side. The Royalists have a heavier cav contingency on the wings, but the parliamentaries have a cav reserve sitting in with, who the hell is this here? Balfour's command in the center wing. And that's going to be kind of interesting. That kind of mixed command isn't great. Basically, that's this. We got a right-wing cav with some musketeers here, and then a left-wing cav and a right-wing cav over here. This is under Ramsey. This is under Fielding, which only has one cav in the whole wing, and then some dragoons that are deployed as musketeers. So the way I see it is, the Royalists' big advantage is going to be their unified cav wings, and especially over here, the capability to kind of slip behind and cause issues that way. So that's where I'm going to start. I have to pick one of my commands under charge to use. The Royalists have all of the initiative, basically, at the beginning of this scenario. It's only 10 turns. It's listed as 9 in here, but I have it crossed out, marked 10. Maybe I found that in the errata at one point or another. Maybe I just said, hey, it should be 10 turns. Quick snapshot after the Royalist advance on the left flank. They got a continuation, a single one, and expended some fire, drove some units back. Now I get to hit with close combat if I want to, which I certainly do. Here's the result. I got kind of a bad hit coming against Fielding's cav, which was actually stronger, which killed one of my Royalist cav. I took out a Parliamentary light infantry, but the unit that did so pursued off board, which I don't think come back on this one. And we're still in charge. Finished. We have hit. For whatever that's worth. Whatever it's worth. Alright, I guess it's time to advance and I guess kind of try to cover that flank as much as we can. A little bit with the pulsing and whatnot in this game, and have made some errors already, trust me. But after a continuation, the infantry formation is up here. One of the things that's very tricky in this game is your wing commander, you kind of can't move him. Like, he's usually in a position like here where he has a bunch of units under command. There's basically command is, it's sort of consecutive, okay? So like if I have this unit in command by being 2 hexes away, then I can command this one by being 2 hexes away, etc. So it's very easy to just move a force forward with the commander thinking, oh, yeah. Everything was in command at the beginning. It doesn't work that way because you can move the leader around to command additional units and whatnot. I did fire my artillery, and then these fired at the advancing forces, hoping to beat them up. One of the problems is that there's like grazing fire, which means if you've got depth, there's a possibility of being able to shoot through the enemy units. And if you catch a unit, and this is something I did, when it first moves, you know, close, when it moves as close as it's going to move, if you take your shot then, you might miss an opportunity to hit somebody who's behind it. So for example, this has a grazing fire of 3 to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I shot this at range 5 before this moved up. I would have been better off waiting until this got to range 7, or I could just wait and do it during my own activation. But there are maybe advantages to hitting things. Well, there are advantages to hitting things while they're in the grazing fire range. That's the only time you get opportunity fire. On the other hand, the closer something is, the better chance you have of hitting it, even, well, you know, even if it's outside your grazing range. But I don't know. It's just, anyway, I'm going to pause for a little bit before I do this final wing of the Royalists. We're just really doing the approach at this point, but, you know, I feel like I'm relearning the system. Yeah, I know the rules, supposedly, to the extent that, like, oh yeah, we got to do that, don't we? type of feeling, as opposed to just being really comfortable and familiar with them. I'm glad this isn't a huge. So, I think the first. Whoa. Yeah, that's got to go in Tales. I had people over when I was way too drunk trying to play Tales of the Arabian Nights. And I couldn't even understand. I couldn't remember the game at all enough. And yeah. But anyway, that was a couple of weeks ago. Some of the first ones I played were Gustavus versus the Poles, which were really, really painfully cav-heavy scenarios. And cav is very funky in this game. It turns into this wheeling mess of stuff that is not quite like any other game, and is actually one of the things that I find really appealing about this system. The right flank of the Royalists move forward as well. These light infantry don't really have to worry about formation hits from the terrain, but the cav did. And so we got these formations shaken on the other side. There is, I think, a formation shaken. That's morale. I thought that was a formation shaken marker. I thought something didn't. The artillery doesn't have anything on the other side. But anyway, this is somewhat problematic. It means that first of all, I'm in charge formation. I would have had to, if I had gotten a continuation, I would have had to do an orders change to try to recover my formation quality. I don't really want to hit things in a weaker formation. But now that puts everything over to the Parliamentarians, and I got to do me some thinking because, you know, there wasn't a lot of thought with the Royalists. They just pushed forward. I had to think about, you know, how to handle attacks and whatnot. But here, I have to figure out what I actually want to do in the face of the Royalist troops moving forward. I wanted to touch the optional rules on this one, which I am using. There aren't a hell of a lot. Royalist heavy infantry have a -1 on the musket fire table, and the Royalist cavalry are short on pistols, so they, and I already was doing this, on a single shot of their pistols, they're out of ammo. Some of the current situation into play, I decided to activate this wing first, because I do want to do the receive charge. It recovered, got a continuation, but didn't get the orders change I wanted to charge, which means I'm still stuck at receive charge. I think that allows me to engage, to move a hex. Yeah. To the Parliamentary left flank, or left wing, and screwed up. Treated as if, you know, I didn't have orders or whatever in the game, and just charged forward and started handling all that. I had to undo everything I did. They could only move forward 1 hex, which is fine. And then they did not get a continuation. That puts me at the final, the center, which I'm probably okay with receive charge, to tell you the truth. I might want to try to cover some ground here, but I probably don't want to do a whole hell of a lot. You know, it's going much slower than when I'm familiar with the game, because I am screwing things up and everything. But we do some cleanup here, where stuff that's finished becomes no longer finished, and the cannons become unfired and whatnot. And we move to turn 2. And we'll take a little break there. And getting used to it, but you know, I mean, honestly, these battles, these little ones, easily can be done within like an hour once you're, you know, comfortable with the system and everything. Means is that the initiative stays with the Royalist. All 3 of his columns are going to go first. Let's remember to unflip everything. We do have some things that we might want to clean up, though. These formation shakens and whatnot. They don't affect firepower? Yeah, they do. They affect firepower, but they also affect the close combat. You just don't want to go into a fight, you know, a little shaken. Morale shaken isn't good either, right? You want your units to be fresh and healthy and good, you know, in good order in every way. We went with the Royalist left wing now, and they converted into a receive charge so they could rally this unit. Well, not rally, but actually, I think I did rally it, which I'm not allowed to do. Let's just check that. Oh, the wing commander can rally. Okay. Yeah. So we went to a receive charge. That would allow us. That also allowed us to move forward a hex, which gave us some attack capability. We drove off and broke this unit, and also shot at these guys, but ended up falling back. We didn't get a continuation. It's hard to continue with anything but charge. Also successfully hit the leader. Now, that leader might come back next turn. He's wounded or whatever, scared, something, but he might also be dead, in which case he'd be replaced. I think he just gets replaced with a 0 colonel. I don't think there are any bad leaders in this game. I'm not sure. On this wing is the Royalists. I think they have more cav than the Parliamentaries, but they have a bit of a problem in that there's a lot of commanded muskets, which gives additional firepower to those cav units, which is a powerful option. Yeah, both sides have musketeers or whatever. I actually have a lot of strength points of muskets, but they're collected into, or dragoons as well, they're collected into just a couple of units. I just ran out of pipe. I'm gonna head down here, and I think I'm gonna brew another cup of tea, come back down. Stupid nightmare. As close as I get to a nightmare, which in this case was, I was stuck at, I don't know, an old school I used to be at, and for some reason it was next to an airport terminal. Like the two were kind of combined, and I really had to take a shit, and I couldn't find an empty bathroom, like one where I felt comfortable enough to take a dump in, which, you know, is weird. Like, I found restrooms. Everything was really crowded. There was some kind of orientation going on, and then, I don't know, just all kind of weird shit was happening in it, you know. Really fucked up, but like the lost animals area of the airport, which was really fucking weird because there was like a fox there. All the royalists have moved. I wasn't able to get out of charge in either case. This case, I probably would have stayed in charge. I closed up my firing lanes, though, which is somewhat problematic. This guy forgot to shoot. Oops. He'll get a closer range shot, but it won't be grazing range, but that's okay. There's nothing in the backfields. And these guys I wanted to reform, which meant I wanted to go to receive charge. I don't really want to hit these formed infantry. Every other hex for these big guys is okay because they protect with some opportunity fire and whatnot. And they can really light up a cav unit, if I recall correctly, just with their firepower, if I can't get an actual flanking in. Yes, I could slip in and hit in the flank here, but to do so I have to brave a couple of opportunity fires, which I'd really rather not. That will put it on the royalists, and they may want to launch their center and get that first attack in. I don't remember if that was bonus in this. First attack's important with the cav, mainly because of the momentum rules. Yeah, there's some momentum, but I think it's still 2 hex. I gotta look up so much here. I think momentum is still 2 hex, even with, yeah. Even with the heavy infantry charges. So that's kind of an interesting mix, because if you charge forward with the heavy infantry, you take opportunity fire, and I would prefer to use the introduction fire to move forward 1 hex. But the introduction fire is kind of annoying because I think you take, I'm not sure about the ordering again. I have to look everything up. But I think you take the reaction fire before you get to shoot. A leader means that this wing doesn't get to go. They'll have a new leader one way or another next turn. Fuck up I made. This guy here is actually at his casualty threshold, and there's special markers for that because you can't get above let me find it, 3 to 4. Oh no, he's not. So he could have done the recovery he did. Okay. He's not at his casualty threshold. He needs 2 hits to be at casualty threshold because he's high morale. Let me cover what happened. These guys moved forward a little bit, couldn't run away because I'm under charge orders, and now I'm moving the infantry forward very slowly. And at the end of things, the push of the heavy infantry has kind of punched the center back a little bit. And this isn't a game where usually units break all to shit right away. unless you have a real advantage or get one hell of a die roll. But, you know, we've got some morale shakens. That's going to cause some serious problems. I think the Royalists are in trouble at this point. Anyway, it's counter replacement time, and we get to do the leader replacement for whatever his name is, Fielding. There's Fielding on both sides. Leader eliminated, use a replacement leader, or does not return from, yeah. Okay, so this leader is actually dead, and we have to find a colonel for that. I'll have to find one. And that'll get us through 2 turns. This is sort of our situation. Didn't want to do melees across the hedgerow. I feel like that's particularly wise with either side. Mainly because of the formation hit that comes from it, I guess. I don't know, for the cav. The infantry, yeah, maybe I got some kind of advantage, but I got a firepower advantage too, so you know, I can kind of ooze my way through that way. Anyway, this is where we're sitting. Again, with the center of the Royalists getting a little beaten up, I'm feeling like that's escalating fast enough that whatever advantage I had over here, which doesn't really seem to be that great. Yeah, there's no cav here anymore. This is broken at this point. But it's somewhat problematic. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that I couldn't get out of charge here. And I couldn't get continuation in the center, which would have allowed me that first push. That's kind of effective. What feels a little weird in this system is there's no army morale. You fight it out the length of the battle, basically. Now, obviously, you could change things, but the determining victory is just the victory points calculated at the end of play for losses. Right now, the only losses are over here. This is not an actual loss. This is a unit that pursued and isn't coming back, which is kind of a fun thing in the game for me, but it does feel like there should be some point at which the army just breaks, whatever that means. And I don't know. I don't know if it's that big a deal, but it definitely seems to me that that would be a factor in these battles. Okay, so the Royalists went next. I chose to use the center. I was able to find a path of fire through this little hole there that I could hit. Didn't get anything, but was unable to get out of charge orders, which means I had to push forward with some units that were already kind of weakened. Overall went okay, but this guy got fired back. I lost my leader, which means no continuation will happen. And I haven't yet done the melees, which I expect there will be plenty. A fair amount of bloodletting there. We had a couple of units, one on each side of those big boys, get knocked out of the battlefield. We also had a number of casualties. Balfour and King Charles were both wounded. That means this wing does not get to fight this turn. Well, it doesn't get to do anything. It doesn't get an action, which is a big deal because that's where my artillery is and all this cav, which is kind of a weird situation. So that was actually like the fact that this cav ends up part of the center wing probably had something to do with this wing just collapsing really quickly. Otherwise, it would have been able to position over. And the fact that this hasn't collapsed very quickly, it probably actually should be part of him. But that's not how this game works. It doesn't have lots of special rules in it for that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was one wing's activation. It was a pretty hefty one, to be honest. and I'm going to brake for a little bit just because of that. But then I've got a charge over here as well. There was another screw up in that first round of heavy infantry firing. I forgot that the heavy infantry is supposed to fire on a per hex basis. I kind of had to look that up because I was hitting some angles where only half the unit was hitting, and I was like, wait, there's no penalty for that? Yeah, there is. Each hex of a double hex unit gets to fire. So there was a little less casualties on that initial contact. It's not something I could really go back and repair. So I said, screw it, whatever. I also probably forgot the -1 on some of the royalist shots as well, but again, pretty minor. This is a very smooth chart. I mean, it basically does a -1, a modifier on this does very little, as opposed to, say, the lighter infantry and cav charts. I find firing salvo fire very, very effective, and I tend to go with that instead of trying to gain momentum. Because see, the momentum means you get shot and you don't get to shoot, because you don't get that fire by introduction. You just charge them. Which, I mean, this is a devastating table. And the momentum, though, only gives you a +1 on there. And the salvo fire gives you a +1 as well. So you might as well do the fire by introduction. I see almost no cases where I want to charge with my heavy infantry. Looks like it's turning into a royalist rout. Prince Rupert, who should be pretty good, could not get out of charge, was trying to get into received charge. Rally would be a safer choice. More likely I would have gotten in there. But I wanted to receive charge to maintain firepower and whatnot. Maybe I'm not as, I'm not as comfortable with the system and thinking, oh, I can get away with this. Yeah, I really needed to rally my forces. Instead, I got stuck in charge, which means I had to push forward. We've not done melee yet, and I will do some. But I had 2 cav units disintegrate, smacking into essentially infantry units that I could not. I had to keep moving closer because I'm under charge. And then I also wasn't, although I shouldn't have done the continuation roll until after the melee, I wasn't able to get the continuation. But I'll go back and do those melees because I did want to do some. The effect of that was not good. My musketeers pushed theirs back, but I decided to charge to use my cav for an attack across the hedgerow, and I just had so many bonuses that it throws me into the cav pursuit. Ran off the table. Yeah, sure, I killed something, but that doesn't make up for a unit leaving the board. Now we're on the receive charges, and the parliamentarians get to go first here. Now, the big question is, do I want to go before these? And if not, I piddle with one of these guys, do what they do. If I do want to go before these, though, obviously I take that action. I have been cheating. Not sure how much, at least in concept. I have been allowing receive charge to do advancing fire, which you're not allowed to do. Don't know how much of it has happened. There probably was some down here. I don't think anywhere else, to be honest. So there's that at least. More things. I noticed this guy was flipped over. He shouldn't have been. I haven't activated him this turn. Which is an easy thing to screw up. Like if I miss unflipping something, it's very easy for me to not notice that problem, but here I'm pretty damn sure. But I also noticed here, I've got a cannot move adjacent to an enemy unit on receive charge. Now this is written in by me. I am assuming later rules handle this, and I'm gonna have to go check another rule book, which means going up into the tremendous heat. I can sit in front of my computer with a fan on up there, but it's just too fucking hot to do much. And up in the loft where these rules are, it's going to be problematic. But whatever this is not mentioned over here as to restrictions. Make ready has the may not move adjacent, but receive charge doesn't. I'm going to check later rules to make sure that this is right, what I've got in here, but I think they are. I think I penciled in the addendum here. Indeed correct. One thing that really bothers me is the Saints and Armors rule book is a hell of a lot thicker than this one. Some of it is addendum for the various games. I don't know. I remember not liking that game as much. Some of it I think is just the terrain, the amount of terrain in the game. But there may have been additional rules that got in the way of the kind of smooth and easy play that this has. I don't recall. I think I do want to activate this. I think you always want to go first. Well, maybe not always. Sometimes receiving the charge is okay with interceptions and whatnot. But in this case, we've got some shaken, some battered morale and stuff like that. I think we want to recover as much as we can. The other side also has them. So there's advantages to that. The question then comes to mind, do we want to preempt with Lord Wilmot or whatever? And the problem is he's sitting in a received charge, which isn't a good roll for that. And you get a penalty to your continuations, if I recall correctly, when you preempt. Now, what's kind of funny, if you have a no continue, you can't preempt. Okay. Yeah, you can't continue, and you're worse at preempting. Looking for the failure. I think you get a no continuation. The preempted leader is marked with bypass. The bypass will activate next. If a preemption fails, you get a no continue, which makes you have a harder time at preempting. Not that I'd want to do it again, but the real problem is you don't get a continuation, and continuations are useful. I don't think he can do much to me, so I'm going to let him have his action. Kind of gotten themselves into better order here. Neither one changing from received charge, although he tried to go into a charge, tried to take advantage of that numerical edge that he has. That is going to put me to... Actually, we only have one unit left, which is up here. These guys have lost their leader. Able to get our forces into charge, and one of the musketeers was morale weakened, but basically the musketeers got wiped out trying to advance on here, but the cav is going to do a job on Prince Rupert's force there. Kind of turned things around. This kind of beat up little cav here, who would have fired their pistols in defense. managed to get a really bonus roll by the attacker, where they were able to sweep them, and in the pursuit get the good result, which is pursue and eliminate. So they charged to here. They're kind of out of position because of that. It gets rid of this stupid momentum. They took the leader out with that, which means we are done for the turn, and we make some leader checks. King Charles may be gone. End of turn 3. What has happened now? Leadership-wise, only one leader returned, I think. Maybe not. I keep forgetting this poor fucker. Why is he with a musketeer? That's not good. We ended up with another colonel in place over here. And Charles is gone. I don't know what that means. Rupert is now the army commander, and he gets replaced with Maurice. Guess we put them both here. So yeah, now Rupert is the army commander. Now that can be very helpful because Rupert can lend that big -2 to other commands, but in terms of victory points, I am sure that losing King Charles pretty much loses the battle. But yeah, well, we'll see what else comes of it, because a victorious battle, even, that 50-point loss, Charles shouldn't have been exposed, but kind of got to put him somewhere. And the royalists are getting wiped out to a large extent. Take a moment here because I brought down the this is version 6 of the rule book here, and it has bloated. Not including, first of all, this victory conditions is in the playbook in Accursed Civil War, so I shouldn't count that. But not including the errata that really, you can use this rule book instead of this one, but the errata allows you to use the components, and it, I mean, you get a page of errata for each of the games, really. Some of them a little less, but Accursed Civil War has a whole page. But not including this, which again is in the playbook, we got 26 pages of rules here. This whole thing is 16 pages from the earlier version of the rule book. A lot of that's just bloat. It really is. And honestly, it makes the game harder to approach. It makes it harder to read through the rules. Yes, maybe it hammers some points in a little bit more, but I don't think that there are significant differences. It's just they've really bloated out the rules, and I would rather not cope with that. Anyway, some of it is as new terrains were added and stuff, they had to put additional information into it, I guess. But, I find this with a lot of GMT games, and honestly, a lot of games, over the years, is that rules bloat has become a real problem. Anyway, let's take a look at turn 4. This battle is essentially over with Charles dead, but yeah, that 50 points can't be overcome. But we'll see what happens, because it's interesting to see what actually happens on the battlefield as well. Important consideration. Look, the Royalists have to go first. They have two units under charge, and then we'll shift to this. Obviously, there's probably the most important consideration is, do I want to go first here or not? because I will be going first here. I don't have control over that. And I will be going, it'll be up to the parliamentaries which position I go in with these guys. And unable to get out of charge, we ended up you can see there's no royalists there anymore. We ended up smacking that cav unit, getting a really lucky roll, destroying it, but pursuing off the map. That means Maurice has a chance to come back in. I've tilted him sideways to indicate he's not lost. Honestly, it's not going to matter much whether it's a colonel or Maurice in command of these. In fact, I'd probably rather a colonel at this point because there's just not enough force on that flank to qualify for, you know, a valuable commander who's worth, I don't know, 10 points, 20 points, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I forgot about this unit. It can't get away and doesn't want to attack, but we'll do a counterattack on them, actually. Royalists were successful. That means I have to deal with the right flank currently under charge orders with one unit out of command. Work things out so that I can move command back into place. So then the question becomes, what do I want to do? Do I want to hit this? And I think the answer is actually yes. And the good pursuit result here, we wiped out the last of that Royalist Rights cavalry. We can roll for a continuation. Why not? Almost always want to. Not happening. My decisions, you know, just revisiting the game. The system is a little cumbersome in terms of like number of die rolls and whatnot, but in terms of the things that I really dislike, it absolutely is not. Like, look, you know, a single unit firing might have to roll a couple of dice, and then you have a counter fire at the same time. Well, and you have morale checks being possible and all kind of stuff like that. You have a number of different actions, but they all kind of relate to the story. And although this chart is a sequence of modifiers, and it is a little painful, you don't reference it all that often. Like, compare this to something like Summer Storm, or... Well, with Summer Storm, I have to go through those modifiers, you know, on every combat, basically. Here it's just the close combats, which quite often you're repulsed before you get to one way or another, one side or the other is forced back or something. And they're kind of dramatic, big instances. There aren't a lot of pieces on the board in these battles. Even in the big ones, there aren't a hell of a lot. You know, it's not like that game. And then I look at what I'm doing now, which is the Nations in Arms, and oh my god, how annoying. I have this chart, but on each combat I have to run back and forth between off-map boxes to figure out what the fuck is going on. It's not, you know, here everything's on the counters, and I can kind of collect the pieces of information I need. What's the morale differential? Is somebody shaken? Whatever. I can remember what's important. You look through this whole list and it looks like a lot, but it's about 2/3 of these are real, in the sense that the rest are just mirror images. You know, like if one side's shaken and the other side's shaken, they both get a penalty on that. You know. So it's really not that painful, and there are a fair amount of them that don't take effect. What's more difficult is remembering the little things you have to do, like putting the momentum markers down when you move under such a circumstance. That's a big deal with the cav especially. Anyway, let me get back to playing. Even with Rupert over here, I still ended up failing to get out of my charge. I love this factor in the game too. I mean, it is just so much I like about this system. I've forgotten what a joy it is. But this whole, yeah, I'm stuck, not being able to rally my forces, and now they have to go charging. Now, this thing, I think, is not able to. I don't know if, I don't remember if morale broken prevents movement. I know formation broken does. No, they have a movement of 1, so it can keep advancing, I guess. Artillery is just not doing a job. It's at such a long range. But yeah, I keep plinking away, and this time I got grazing range against being able to hit 2 units, but nothing still. Being able to move your leader, I was able to command these units, move them into place, then run over, command these units, and move them forward. Chased off some cav. That's really all that happened there. Did not get a continuation, though, which kind of blows. And now I pick one of these 2. Now, this is the one that I maybe want to do first. Yeah, this is his actual unit, I think. As opposed to these, which are part of the center, and just kind of confusingly some cav in the center that gives me a mixed formation. What's important to me? Important to me is rallying. And somewhere or another, I have the list here. I'm in received charge, so I would be able to rally, and I could fall back, and I'm just going to stay there. Great effect for the royalists. We got into charge after our first continuation allowed us to charge, and we went in with momentum, and I decided to go in with my foot soldiers first so that I could avoid what happened to the first dragoons or whatever that I hit, which is I pursued them off the map because I have so many bonuses on the pursuit table. Well, I got repulsed there with them being able to advance, which prevented my cav from being able to hit. Didn't get another continuation, which is okay. I'm actually out of these markers and having to use the morale shakens that are not the special ones that are like, yeah, you're permanently shaken. Obviously, I could dig into other games and get more markers. I don't feel like it's all that necessary. In particular, I could probably trade these because I think the cav is more important to demonstrate that way. I will realize right away that, yeah, I got a hit on a 2-point unit. It's going to be shaken, but yeah, there is a slight issue with that. What I actually am finding is these formation markers aren't being used very much, but that's because this terrain is so clean. I don't know if all the scenarios are this clean. I know that in the Saints in Armor errata, it says that all the hills everywhere are steep except, I think, Marston Moor. Well, there aren't any here, so it's okay. This is not a hill. So, and I got one more unit, one more command to utilize. I was unable to get out of received charge, which means I can't move adjacent to the enemy. That means this guy couldn't get there. I think. He may have just rotated. I think he just rotated. But I think that means I can't wheel into position. And I couldn't do advancing fire anyway. I guess we do some melee. Possibilities I have are this unit, which is at a real disadvantage hitting infantry. Flank is a minor minor difference. See, part of the problem is this is a 17 strength point unit. Now, this doesn't go to... some systems give you, like, you know, you basically have a modifier equal to the odds. This goes with +1 if you're 2 or 3 to 1, and +2 if you're 4 to 1 or greater. So, you know, it would only be a 2-point difference. The flank attack makes up for that, but it's really not a pleasant attack. I could pull out my pistols. You know, I have a shot, man. I have a shot. Let's think about it. Strength ratio would be -2. Close combat heavy infantry gets me to -3. That's what's wrong. I go up to -2 with cav, and flank brings me to -1. I don't want to make the attack, though. But the one attack that I could make is the Royalists can make a counterattack against this unit. What's really fucked up is that I could have done like a reaction move like this, but I don't think I had the opportunity to make it. So I think I'm kind of stuck in these kind of ungainly positions. Now, this moved right up into there. Why was I okay with that? I don't know. Hey, we got fire to exchange at least. Because I got a 1-hex shot into this. This has flank coming out. So at least I have that. I was effective and I swapped counters again because these guys are too important not to have those on. Their strengths are not as obvious. I'm not going to fire this because it would create a reaction fire. I'm probably not going to drive that thing away. And I've got a chance of a continuation. So let's move him. You should be safe there. I think. Oh, that gives me a -1 on the continuation. It's just a received charge. It's not going to work. All right. And then we see if we get Rupert back or some colonel. Leader eliminated, yeah. He goes up here and we get a colonel. Rupert, that was Maurice. But either way, he survives. All right, I'm going to go back upstairs and piddle around for a bit. You know, I get confused because it feels nice here and it's looking dark and I'm like, oh, it'll be okay. It's still close to 100 up there. 100 up again, but I don't want to reverse anything. This guy actually shouldn't withdraw. Hey, kind of had to. Okay, whatever. And I have artillery I can fire, which I forgot about. I did the 2 charges here rather than jumping over to one of these. It doesn't really make much difference because these aren't going to influence what happens over there. So I'm going to finish that up. But both of these managed to slip into rally, which didn't work out too well because I tried rallying in an enemy zone of influence or whatever you want to call it, their fire zone, and lost a couple more units due to that. So you're seeing the Royalists really starting to fade away into nothingness. Really, really easy to screw things up in this game in terms that don't really matter, like that kind of thing, but also other stuff where it's like, maybe it's because it was so little effort to read the rules that it doesn't stick as well as it should, but in a lot of cases it's not that big a deal. And I really don't know what's in you know, that Saints in Armor rule book, that's not just bloat, you know, trying to clarify things that are already pretty fucking clear. The Royalist artillery did something. It knocked this down to, it knocked it twice, actually, with the two guns both firing at that. So those now aren't moving, and, you know, I can probably leave them behind. Depending on what my orders are, maybe rally them. Not rally, but reform them. Center is going to see if it can clean up the field. We charged, got a salvo fire against us. Strangely enough, a broken morale unit can still shoot, and pretty well. It doesn't have any penalties here. I didn't see anything there. I didn't look in future rolls to see if there's differences there. Maybe I should. Yeah. And then cav charges coming in from the rear on these units. We're just trying to destroy the Royalist center. We did manage to fire some artillery off at this guy or something. Broke his formation up. Hitting from the rear is a bonus, I guess. It really isn't that huge a bonus because it's only a +1. But I'm going to also have the firepower going in, and I didn't get shot too badly. I just got shot by a flank attack here. I don't know if these are... Yeah, I don't think so. I was going to say, I don't know if they're meant to indicate that they're units with pikes as opposed to units without. I know over in the Saints in Armor they make that distinction. They don't make it here, though. And I didn't have replacement units or anything. Like, these units are just the ones that are in the game, as far as I can tell. Now, it's possible that I bought a used copy and there were, I don't know, Wentworth might have been duplicated. Byron, there's two Byrons. They're both rated the same, so it doesn't make much difference. It's possible that there was a distinguishment made later, but I'm not seeing it over in those rules for some reason. I don't know why. Here, that unit is a Swedish-style battalion. And that is not from the original set here. I don't... They don't have a general section. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do with those. Maybe I'll look that up. I haven't been able to find anything about those Swedish-style battalions. There really should be a rules reference on that image. If they have any effect, I can't find anything, and I've looked. But by scanning through all the differences, I found some interesting things. For example, one, light infantry can't attack anything except other light infantry in melee combat, which kind of makes sense, but it's potentially an ugly thing that they could do, especially to like cav units and stuff, or in a flanking attack or something. But they're pretty useless, and they should be. They're musketeers essentially, or dragoons. They're not meant for hand to hand or for any kind of close combat. But also the morale broken has some additional things in it which are not in the old rolls at all. I'm okay with it either way, but they can't react, they can't take any actions. They're basically really destroyed units, as they kind of feel like they should be. There's also a route phase, which is mentioned there, which I do not see here. Oh yeah, there's still a route movement phase here, which I have not been addressing particularly. It's okay. There haven't been a lot of morale broken units, to tell you the truth. Rule lookup stuff confused me, of course, and I lost track of where the fuck I am, which is another problem with this game. You kind of have to, not necessarily play out a full turn, but you can't stop in the middle of an activation like I did, and I'm ready to launch attacks, and I haven't done that yet. I figure out where I am, but it took a lot of work actually in my head. Like my mind was not at all able to quickly come to that understanding. I think I screwed up. I forgot the momentum bonus, which would put me up to a defender eliminated. I thought I had a defender morale broken here, which would have necessitated the very rare unable to retreat table here. But it's not going to. It's just going to be a morale. It's just going to be a unit eliminated. And I get a calf pursuit, which is +1, +2. It would have just eliminated. Check. The rules are the same in both cases. A calf pursuit is only checked if the result calls for it, not, as in the case that I just did here, for hitting a unit that is like morale broken, routed. You don't get, if you get upgraded. I got upgraded from a morale shaken type of result. If you get upgraded, you don't have to roll. And I checked that in the Saints in Armor because I could see that have been clarified, but it's not the case. We do get the unable to retreat table because I blocked my capability of getting out of there easily, smashed into these guys on a 0, and got a morale shaken, which requires me to retreat. My base morale is a shitty 6, which means there's a -2 to the table. So I've got a pretty good chance of being destroyed. And I am. Really bad attack, but it only happened because I took the fire. This is what happens when you use momentum. You don't get to shoot, the enemy gets to shoot you, and in this case it ended up putting him below, you know, his he got one of these markers, the can't recover the morale, because he had hit his threshold there. My commanders together. Close enough. I don't worry about the stacking on a 2-hex unit. Which means I have a chance to continue. I would have one anyway, but I have a better chance, but I don't get it. And not him. Does he have a finished side on him? Doesn't really make sense, except that he could be used in other scenarios. Okay, so at the end of this, this is our situation. These guys did not get a, I think they got a continuation, but they didn't get to change into charge to do anything. I rolled the leader replacements, and Rupert is gone. He was my army commander now. That's a problem. Lizzle came back, and I'm not sure where to put him. Here he can try to rally things, but he's going to have real trouble getting that unit in command. I don't know which is better. None of it is good. Like, the Royalists are just fucked. So I'm actually probably better down here, and then I can run up that way if I need to. But I have a rally command. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I looked in both rules. They state that you make the senior wing commander the replacement leader, unless there's a replacement left listed here. Now, in First Newbury, we have Lord Forth, and I thought I had screwed up, because senior wing commander is still Rupert. I would think that in that case, you get both. You first get Lord Forth, then the senior wing commander. There's no rules for getting an army commander beyond the senior wing commander. I feel like if the command structure is that broken, at that point, it would be very difficult to find someone and say, yeah, this person is in command of the army. There's not really a need for an army commander in the game. There is a need for a wing commander for every wing, and they will always exist. I'm willing to accept that, you know, if you run past, in this case, you know, the king's dead and Rupert's dead, well, what are we going to jump down to? You know, the best commander? Who's highest ranked, whatever. Obviously, previous wing commanders would be higher ranked, which actually probably means Wilmot would be the most important person on the field. However, there's no instructions for doing that. And again, I'm perfectly happy to say the command is shattered enough that I just don't have a wing commander, or I just don't have an army commander anymore. So that's going to put us, I think, on turn 6. Again, this battle is over. But you can see some hits occurred on the Parliamentarians. So, you know, it's not absolute smooth sailing. Anytime you hit a real unit, you got possibility of getting hurt. And I'm going to break for a bit, hoping, can't see from here, it's supposed to be meteor showers or something, and I don't think they're due yet, but I don't know that I can see them. Certainly not from my porch. There's just too much light. I can see the planets, but not you know, a slew of stars. Initiative rules are a little weird here. So it's whoever has the most charge, but here we have one of each. So then there's a tiebreaker among them. Both players have an equal number of highest precedence or order. Then the wing commanders with the best modifier, -2 being the best, goes first. In case of a tie, that makes it sound like the actual wing with that would have to go. I'm going to look at this because this is ambiguously written in the newer rules. But also it feels weird. Both players have an equal number of wings under highest orders and determine which player has the best wing commander under those orders. That's important. The player with the best wing commander has the initiative and may activate any of their wings under that. That's a lot looser and better. Gives you somewhat more... So the way this is interpreted, it felt like it wouldn't have to be under the charge orders, which would be really problematic, and I would say that is obviously an error. But also that it forces you to move the wing commander with the highest rating, which is less problematic, but doesn't give you an advantage for having that initiative situation. Anyway, our 2 wing commanders are 0s, so I guess odd, it's royalists, and they will have to go first. It's not going to make a hell of a lot of difference because the 2 charge orders are over here, and everything else is decided. We've got a receive charge, and then 2 rallies versus 1. I'm just pulling back with these musketeers and dragoons. I don't see much point. They're not going to be able to do much on their own. Maybe protect the guns somehow. Parliamentaries in charge order. These guys had to try to get back into command. I don't think they actually managed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. I think they can do that. I might have just gotten myself in grazing range where two things can be hit, though. This is our... looks like it. None of these were able to fire. This guy's out of pistols. This guy's broken. I'm going with the rules from the newer version where they can't fire with that. And these guys both move too many hexes, even though they don't have momentum markers. Declaring attacks with all of these to get like flank attacks on this unit. Which one do I want to go first? Because this I do not want to act. But these guys will both end up at that maximal plus or minus 4. Now there's some, this guy could get killed by it, so I'm going to hit with this. Why are they going to end up at plus or minus 4? Well, because the morale differential is a 6-point difference. So we add that in. Strength is not to my disadvantage. I have a couple of flank hexes being hit, so that's 3 more. So I'm at plus 9 there. La la la. You can see this is just going to add up. I think I'm going to do this one first, although there might have been an argument that I want to go forward into this hex more. I don't think it matters much. And yeah, this is written in from me. I get a crappy plus 5, but that's a morale shaken to a morale broken unit. So I am destroying this. He goes into the dead pile again. And this guy, I guess, advances into there. Without any pursuit, because it's not cav. And now I get to try for continuation. I might as well just roll that. I don't have my leader with me. I don't know why I didn't move him. Yeah, he could have moved late. Be safe here. Let's get that -1 on the continuation. And that'll give me a continuation on charge. I dropped into a make ready and moved forward. He's back here so he can, the Lord Essex commander, army commander, can actually rally that unit, whereas these, well, I wasn't allowed to do that. I wasn't allowed to reform this. I wasn't close enough. Although I think you can pause leader movement. Let me just check that. Because if I could pause leader movement, I could end up stacked with someone and in much better shape. I can't, but what I can do is trace 3 hexes to a cav unit. So this would indeed have been able. I forgot about cav having a greater extension. Okay, fair enough. And that's going to put me, let's see, I did the charges. Not that that really matters, but that means these 2 are finished, marked. We've got 2 rallies over here and a rally here. He just went, so one of his 2 rallies has to go. There's not a lot I can do. I guess I'll move this to try to get it out of the way. To the line, this wasn't able to move because the leader was knocked out. Speaking of which, let's see what we get there. He will come back next turn. This is a weird situation. I don't know how to mark this. But I get a colonel with whoever that is. Well, actually, I might be getting whoever is there. So Liesel, that's already the replacement. See, I have one replacement here, but that's not mine. I think I forgot this bugger. If the parliamentarians were in rally, which means, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Don't know if a whole hell of a lot more is going to happen. The Royalists might lose this unit if I go to focus on it. Taking the guns out is worth a significant amount of points. There are a lot of points to be gained by the parliamentarians. I don't think there's anything the Royalists can do to sort of swing the tide here. So let's take a look at what the points are. We have King Charles. He's 50. These are named wing commanders. I don't know that we've lost all our wing commanders. Astley was an original and Rupert was an original. Okay, so that gets me to 70. $80, $90, $100, $110, $120, $130, $140, $150, $160, $170. There are some spare points. For example, this hit is worth a point, so that's 171. This, I don't know if it's worth 1 or 2. It's worth a point each. So we're talking at 174 there. And then this Dragoon, I don't know if lights are worth shit. Nope, they're not worth anything at all. So yeah, so 174 there. Now we look here, and we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and I don't know if that's 80 or not. Basically, we've hit all of their wing commanders and gotten replacements on all of them. But either way, we're looking at, a difference of 60 or 70 points at this point. And I really don't think the Royalists are going to gain much. I think there's a fair chance. I mean, look, I could maybe take a gun out or something, but there's a fair chance that these guns are going to go, or that I could focus and take this out. I don't know if I don't have a bunch of cav. I really don't. I have like very little here. So probably the 25 points or whatever for the guns is the more worthwhile, right? No, 15 points. They don't have a lot of guns. But this battle is so clearly decided. I'm going to call this off at this point. I may have been wrong about the day of the meteor shower. I think it's tomorrow. Thought it was today, and then Facebook seems to say it's tomorrow. But I don't think I'll see it. There's a lot of light pollution here. Anyway, so that's Edgehill, and we'll be doing the next one next, because I don't feel like doing Nations in Arms while it's this hot.